Hello, and welcome to week 10. We are over 60% of the way finished. You guys are doing great. So last week's discussions were really good. A lot of you had very good questions, and they're similar questions to what I am asking on the test. I tell people over and over, practice taking questions, practice taking tests, because there's only so many ways to ask things and only so many things to ask. So I'd really go through all the discussions and work on the questions. Your labs are good. I was creeped out by all the brain pinning because every single person did the brain with the two eyes looking at me right when I opened it. I decided that I'm being psychoanalyzed by you because I kept seeing ink blot tests when I saw the spinal cord. They all look like butterflies. And I've been watching way too many horror movies lately because your cross sections were awesome drawings. I kept seeing space aliens. Yes, I'm watching too many horror movies. Lecture this week is really short. We're doing the autonomic nervous system, which is divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So you probably want to review the brain. There's a lot of stuff in the brain chapter. Review the PNS. Review. So we're going to look at three things. Functions of the autonomic nervous system. I'll give you a test question on lecture 3, what the function is. I'll give you functions like increased sweating or increased heart rate or decreased heart rate, and ask you is it sympathetic or parasympathetic. I'll also do that on the upcoming quiz. So pay attention to functions and pay attention to vocabulary. This lecture, part 1, has a lot of vocabulary. Part 2, we're contrasting the sympathetic SNS and parasympathetic PSNS. We're going to contrast the length of axons, where ganglia are located, whatever a ganglia is. Cell bodies outside the central nervous system, by the way. What they do, we're going to be looking at all of that. Spoiler, it's a page in your lab book as well. So fill out page 118 as you go along. Make a diagram. Here's my beautiful picture. Oh, look, more butterflies. So, in part 3, we're going to look at special features of the sympathetic nervous system. Now, pay attention to the sympathetic chain. We're going to look at it in lab. Remember those rami communicants, the communicating rami? Well, we're going to talk about them too and how they're divided into a gray and a white ramus. And pay attention to what happens in them. So these are going to be special features of the sympathetic. Now, part 4 is the parasympathetic nervous system. This is going to be looking at special features, the nerves. There are 4 cranial nerves that are part of the parasympathetic nervous system. Oculomotor, vagus, how can I forget the vagus? Glossopharyngeal, and facial. Those 4 are fair game on lecture exam 3. We're also going to have some special sense nerves on the lecture exam. Those are the optic, olfactory, facial, it doubles up, glossopharyngeal, it doubles up, and vestibulocochlear. So those are the cranial nerves that are on lecture exam 3. So your follow-up. You have a quiz on this in 7 days, due in 7 days. This is going to be 17 questions and most of this lecture. So there's a study guide. Now, if you look at the module, there's actually 2 study guides. This first study guide that is on the parasympathetic nervous system. I have a second study guide that is 3 things. Number 1, it is this chart, page 118, contrasting the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, length of preganglionic axon, length of postganglionic axon, location of ganglia, where there's myelin, where there's not myelin. The second question is general function. So that's question number 2. Then question number 3, those 4 cranial nerves. So there are going to be 3 questions or 4 questions on this on the lecture exam 4 as well. It used to be a 10-point essay question on the test, so I had to keep a little bit of it in. So we're going to be doing several things. I think this is a short lab. However, I put in the plexuses from the PNS lab, so it might be a little bit longer than I thought it was. So first we're going to look at the cervical plexus. I'm going to send you to Auckland Anatomy. Watch the Auckland Anatomy. Then you're going to go to my favorite model, identify the cervical plexus structures. Don't worry, you're going to be doing the brachial plexus in a minute too. And just so you know, the only nerve I actually care about in the cervical plexus is this one, the phrenic nerve. It's very important. And then I want you to answer the questions on page 114 of your lab book and tell me what is the one nerve I really care about. And I'm not clicking on this because it has the Auckland biology password on it. I probably shouldn't put that on YouTube. So the brachial plexus, you're going to go to Auckland biology. You are going to then go to complete anatomy. You knew it was coming. And you are going to label the parts of the brachial plexus. I have a file for you that explains it, that has pictures of it. I have a video for you how to do it too. And again, people on iPhones, you're gonna have to screen capture and label it. I would take the clavicle out. I do the blood vessels on my video just so you see the relationship. You don't have to keep the blood vessels in. You could just have a disemboweled brachial plexus if you really want, but start with the bones in place and the blood vessels so you can see where it really is. You're then going to go to this webpage. I told you the breast is coming, the brachial plexus. So here's our brachial plexus. Identify the different trunks chords. Then answer the pictures on page 1, questions on page 115. We're then going to do the lumbosacral plexus. Yep, Auckland biology again. It's going to take you to the hot link. The password and login is there. So find the structures on here. Again, I want you to get an idea of where these nerves are. For the terminal nerves, I'll actually use a different picture. For the terminal nerves, I will use this bad boy for the terminal nerves. So this is, oops, that's not the bad boy. So I will use these pictures for the terminal nerves. This one. Oh, and here are the questions I want you to answer on the bottom. Be creative. Why is the left thumb larger than the right thumb? Now, see, this thumb is so much larger. Cannot see it. And why does he have a sock tan? Really, why is it so pale there and so high up there and you can't use sock tan? I just used it. Because Auckland and complete anatomy are actually so cool, we're going to then look at the phrenic nerve and the vagus nerve. I should look at all 4 of the parasympathetic nerves. You can tell which 2 nerves I care about right there, phrenic and vagus. Then we're going to look at the sympathetic trunk. Same thing as all the others. You are going to go to complete anatomy. You're going to go to Auckland. You're going to look at things. You're then going to go to my webpage and answer questions. And again, the reason I'm not clicking on these individual tags is I have the Auckland login on all of them. Then, this is going to be our discussion this week too. Art project. Watch my video. I'm going to explain the art project. And I'm actually very scared to do this art project because I want you guys to be positive. Do not be negative, okay? So you're going to pick a structure. It could be the brain, it could be the spinal cord, it could be a plexus. This class that I'm looking at, everybody's on the brachial plexus so far. It could be the end of the spinal cord, it could be the longitudinal section, it could be part of the ANS. So I'm completely terrified about this. This is something for you guys to do something. This lab and the last lab I felt were a lot of just, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. And to me, that's really boring. So as a result, I want you to do something hands-on. We're covering the spine, ANS, 4 plexuses, 12 cranial nerves, a partridge in the pear tree. Now, I want it only to have 8 structures on it. Do not kill yourself. The muscle project, I think, had 60 muscles on it. So I don't want you to kill yourself. So it could be, and it could be the brain too. It's not listed here. Cross section of the spine, longitudinal section, brachial, lumbosacral plexus, sympathetic trunk, nerves of the arm, nerves of the legs. If you have another idea, double check with me. The brain is fine though. But again, 8 structures. Do not kill yourself. You could make a video. There are some awesome videos in our discussions last week in a couple of the classes, by the way. So you could do a video. You could do a song. You have to perform the song. You cannot link Pinky and the Brain song. You could sing it yourself, but you cannot link it. You have to do it yourself. So here's a couple songs. Could bake sugar cookies. My sugar cookies are for you are going to be blood cells. You could bake bread in the shape of the spinal cord. Your digestive tract's going to eat bread, by the way. You can make the brachial plexus out of pipe cleaners. I had actually planned doing this in face-to-face labs for a long time. Drawings, Play-Doh. Lots of people did Legos last year, but make Legos look good. And your replies, you need to reply to 2 people. Just something complimentary. Saying it looks good, saying how helpful something was to show something. My idea is you see a 3D representation. And again, drawings are fine. So here's my cake. My kids decorated it. It was going to be more complicated. I was going to have the nerves coming out using Nella wafers. The problem is when I went to get the Nella wafers, I found an empty box of Nella wafers in my son's room. So here is the white spinal cord made out of whipped cream, homemade fresh whipped cream with a tablespoon of vanilla. We have, this is buttercream frosting on Devil Foods cake. We have the gray matter in the center made out of chocolate chips, lateral horn, anterior horn, posterior horn. So this is a thoracic section. We have the anterior root. We have the posterior root ganglia, so see cell bodies there. So my kids decorated this. On that class, if I scroll down, a couple people did the brachial plexus. One student did an awesome video about the brachial plexus. They gave a tour of the brachial plexus. I was really impressed. The other student did the brachial plexus also. I have not graded the person's brachial plexus. I'm like, oh, another brachial plexus. Awesome. Can you tell my favorite plexus? So here's my brachial plexus. This was what I did years ago. I got frustrated and threw this in a supply closet. Fortunately, I took a picture of it because I'm pretty sure the lab tech has disposed of it. So here are the roots. C5, C6 makes the superior trunk. C7 makes the middle trunk. C8 and T1 makes the inferior trunk. We have the posterior divisions, which is what frustrated me doing these posterior divisions. Here's the posterior division, posterior cord, radial nerve. My axillary nerve got lost. Here is the lateral cord, vessel cutaneous. Here is the medial cord, ulnar. And then we have the merging of the 2 for the median cord. So there's another idea for you. So again, I got frustrated with this one. Didn't turn out quite as I wanted it. I might have actually fixed it a little bit on Photoshop. So that's your discussion this week. It's part of the lab. And then, before I forget, your quiz this week, due Friday, 11:59 and 59 p.m. Actually, don't quote me on the 59 seconds. Is lab exam 7, or lab quiz 7. It is on the brain and the peripheral nervous system. There are 10, I take that back, it's on the brain and nervous tissue. There are 10 nervous tissue questions, 5 models, 5 histology. There are 10 brain questions that are split up evenly between different things. So that is our orientation. And I hope these pictures and videos have helped you. Thank you.